Hey everybody, it's Rob and Jonas here to talk to you about polishing your film. That means adding lower thirds, changing the color, adjusting this audio waveform, adding transitions, and credits. But we're not to the credits yet, so let's back up and start talking about polishing your film. Okay everybody, this final polishing step in the filmmaking process is really important. It's like washing your car but not drying it, or sanding a work table and not putting the final coats of polyurethane on it, or writing a paper and not spell checking, or packing a parachute and not putting the safety pin in. Your film's not gonna look the best that it can be unless you spend the time at this final stage polishing your film. So today I'm gonna walk you through this checklist and give you some things to think about at each step in the process. And it's really easy because what you're gonna be doing is fine-tuning your rough edit, then you're gonna be adding graphics. At that point, you get to what's called picture lock. You're not gonna be changing anything anymore. You could do color correcting then, you can add sound effects, and then you polish your audio. And FYI, I'm going to be explaining this whole process in a very general sense. A couple things I'll use to demonstrate on my editing program that I have pulled up now, which is Final Cut Pro X, but I use Premiere, I use iMovie sometimes when I'm working with classrooms. It doesn't really matter what you have because the steps that I'm going to be explaining are going to be exactly the same now and into the future. When you think you are done with your final piece, then I think it's important that you make sure you've watched it like 100 times. That's actually probably about how many times I watch it. Just over and over and over again. And if there's anywhere that seems a little bit boring or you dread having to go back and watch your piece, you've got to spice that thing up, either adding B-roll or cutting things out. So if you have things that are a little bit redundant, trim it down. Now this also applies to people's audio. If they talk slowly and they have a lot of ums and there's gaps and spaces, then you can slice those up and shorten it down. So check this out. You can slice those up and shorten it down. And I think that sounds better. Graphics and transitions. This is where I go back and I look and I see if there's anything that could actually be spiced up more with a graphic instead of the person on camera. Sometimes the person on camera is better, sometimes the graphic's better, but that's what you're trying to pay attention to. Now moving on to transitions. Now most of the time I'm going to use just simple cuts, but sometimes if there's a passage of time or place, I use cross dissolves, and they work quite nice, like right here, and occasionally something fancy is in order. And like what you just saw, that's a film burn. I actually have a whole bunch of them here, glitches, film burns. You can search for those online. There's a lot of free resources. And the way that works is this. You basically have them in your library and then you drop them on top of the video and you add a blending mode. I particularly like color dodge with this transition, but experiment with the different blending modes. You'll find one that works. Remember that with all these graphics, you need to put them within what's called title safe zones, and you can see the lines right here. You can click on title safe. And the reason for that is many TVs cut off the edges of the video when it's played, so as long as you're within title safe, then you know it's being played on almost all TVs. And don't forget the credits. You see a small name acknowledgement goes a long way, and people kind of get upset if you forget to put them in the credits. If you're happy with the film now, well then you might want to send it out to others to review it. You fix it up based on their reviews, and now you're ready to make the final picture lock. And you're on to color correction. Now if you guys are like me, you're probably going to really enjoy color correction. And the reason for that is it can really change your film, and plus it's a lot of fun. So check this out. This is the video that I'm working with now. This is the final picture, but this is what it looked like before color correction. It's much flatter and it looks totally different. I usually add a little bit more contrast and saturation. I put gradient masks on my face. And I just change, I just play with the colors a little bit. So every video clip that you work with is going to be slightly different. And I'm not going to give you a color correction tutorial right now, but the point is that using color in your films can change it quite a lot. Check out these clips from Hollywood. Blue tones, like in this one, can give your film a kind of a cold, dark feel. Adding oranges, it makes it much happier. It can also give it a very hot feel. And greens kind of tend to be used for a sci-fi look. Now on to sound effects. So your sound effects are really important in your film, and they're the last kind of little tweaks that you add, and they can just accentuate certain pieces. Take a look at this little video that I have.
And the propeller continues to rotate in a clockwise direction. A phenomenon called steering torque forces the motor to slam left, which makes
Now watch how much better it sounds when you add sound effects.
Ejects the boat operator into the water, and the empty boat continues to travel around in a circle and returns to strike the victim in the water, inflicting massive propeller injuries.
Essentially, every time I add a graphic, or movement, I like to add a little bit of a sound effect to it. It's kind of my own style, but I think it works well. Now I'm going to mention Foley here because it's a different type of sound effect. Foley is where you replace natural sound like walking or chewing or something like that. Any natural history film you watch, like something you see on National Geographic or BBC, is going to have a ton of Foley in it. So check out this famous clip that I pulled. The truth is, all of that was done in the studio later. Crazy, huh? Now to balancing and adjusting your audio. I get a lot of questions about this. People want to know, where do you put the audio levels? Where do you put the music levels? We're going to be talking about how to optimize things now for the web. There will be slightly different specifications if you're doing things on TV, but if you do them the way we do them here, you'll be able to adjust down to those levels when you need to in the future. Basically, we want to make sure that all of our audio is as loud as possible without getting distorted. And what you're doing is you're looking right over here at your audio meters, and as it's bouncing around, you want to make sure it doesn't get above 0 dB. If it stays below it, make sure nothing gets clipped. If you have clipped audio, there's really no way to bring it down. It's going to be permanently distorted. So I recorded my dialogue here, and if I play it, you can see that it bounces around negative 12 dB or so, and I need to increase that sound, but I want to make sure that it doesn't get louder than 0 dB, and if it does, it's going to clip the audio and it's going to sound terrible. So the easiest way to adjust these levels I've found is to use some sort of limiter. In Final Cut Pro, I like to use this limiter. I just drag it onto the clip. And then I can bring up the level in the gain control until it shows up within about 1 to 3 decibels range. So basically, you want it to be bouncing right in this range. And what it's showing me is that all of that is basically what's going above, and that's going to be brought down. So the waveform is just going to be leveled out a little bit. Now I also like to tell it to output at negative 2.5 dB. And that way my dialogue sits at a steady level just under 0 dB, and if you add a little bit of music or something underneath, it usually is not going to get too high and it's not going to go over 0. Now music, if it's played totally by itself, probably shouldn't be raised above, I would say, negative 6 dB. If you have dialogue when your music is playing, then you want to make sure the music is sitting around negative 20 to negative 15. It really does depend a little bit on what music is going on. If in doubt, always go a little bit lower. Just remember, as you're fine-tuning, listen to the whole track. Make sure that the audio meter never goes above 0 dB. If it does, go back, lower some audio, whether in the narration or in the music. Also, if you're editing your own content with earbuds in, then almost always it's going to give you a little bit of a skewed sound. Generally, you're going to put the music too high. That's what I've found. I like to use studio monitoring speakers like this. It gives you a good range, and I put them on either side of the monitor. But I also listen to it on other things like my phone, on a computer without speakers hooked up, in the car. If you can hear it in all of those devices clearly, then you're ready to take it in front of other people. The thing is, sometimes at this stage you just need that second set of ears, and now pretty much the fine-tuning's done. You can sit back and relax and let people enjoy your film. Don't forget, we have a whole bunch of other videos to get you started in this process with the R-Rock project. Whew, exciting stuff. Now you're well on your way. Good luck telling those stories.